Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Aaron Zommers, our magnificent engineer and producer on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. It is a great day to be Wisconsinite, and it is
Hump Day.
The camel got out. He ran away.
Oh, like those monkeys down in South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Which I heard, by the way, 32 of them have been recaptured.
But only 32.
But
so
they're saying that the rest had been living in the wild prior to being captured for research, and so that some people are saying just let them roam. And I'm with them. Let the monkeys roam.
They're not hurting anybody.
They're not hurting anybody
at the moment,
no.
And hopefully ever.
Right, exactly. Glad to have you along, everybody, on this Wednesday. A little bit of overcast skies here in Madison. Brittany Merlot from our meteorology department says that it could be a little wet going into tonight and to tomorrow as well, and then clearing off for the weekend. And if you're watching on the stream, it appears there's an earthquake going on right now in Madison as well. Not really. The table's a little wobbly again, but it'll be fine. 7, as we said, 7 past the hour of 12 noon. Glad to have you along with us. We have a new What's Worse coming up in hour number 2. What's worse? The ever important questions of the day. This one has to do with the holiday season. So we'll be asking you what's worse in hour number 2. Right now, though, and by the way, Pat Kreitlow from Up North News Radio normally joins us on Wednesdays. He is taking a well-deserved vacation to Indonesia. He's there.
Is that so?
In a hut and going through a ayahuasca ceremony. And he has people.
Pat?
Yes, and he has people rubbing his feet.
I thought he took the pontoon out and then tried to submerge it in the lake so he could join Eric Hovde.
No, Pat's out and he's seeing family. He's just hanging out with family, a well-deserved vacation. He'll be back next Wednesday, but as we always do, our friend, native Wisconsinite, fellow Wisconsinite from River Falls, a former Republican like myself and now a senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, it's Trigby and Todd for the next hour. Trigby, my friend, it is great to see you. It's just great to see friends.
Good to be back. It's
Right.
always, 100%. And you know, Todd, we weathered the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. It didn't work out very well for the pack, but you and I, we weathered the storm.
Well, thank you very much. Trigby got the tickets for us and appreciate it. And we hung out at the Lions-Packer game. And you know what? A lot of people said, oh, my God, it must have been terrible. You know what? It was actually really great, if you want to know the truth, because it wasn't 100%. Really that cold. And the best investment I've ever made, perhaps in my life, was a $8.99 Packer poncho at the Packer Pro Shop that kept me relatively dry. Trigby decided to, be the alpha of the group and not get the poncho. So he got a little more wet, but it was great.
But I had my Gore-Tex on, so I wasn't like I was cold.
And your heated vest.
I had my heated vest too. I did have that. So I was snuggly. But man, I'm headed to Chicago, Todd, this weekend
really?
for the big tilt. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very good. And we're going to
with
see
my
each other
kiddos. I love Chicago. One of the best towns.
It's a great town, and the great thing is, when you go to Chicago as a Packer fan, you can wear your Air Love shirt that just says, "Who's your daddy?"
You can do that. The other thing that the last time I was at Soldiers Field, it was raining crazily, and Brett Favre was the quarterback for the Packers, and I think the score was 35-0 at the end of the third quarter. The poncho was helpful because the Bears fans were all throwing beer.
Really?
From the upper deck. Yeah, they weren't.
And right there,
they weren't very happy. And I thought, what a bunch of knuckleheads! They're throwing beer, and it's a rainstorm. Everybody's got ponchos on. Like, why are you wasting good beer? Who does that? People from Chicago, I guess.
Yeah, people from Chicago. This is a great point. You and I and a few other people were there at the Packer game, and like you always say, nobody was wearing a red or blue hat or wearing green and gold or blue and silver. And we had a lot of Lions fans around us. One of your friends happened to be a Lions fan. And you know what? I didn't see any fights going on. Nobody was dumping beer on Lions fans' head. I mean, everybody was just there to enjoy a game and a common experience. And that's what it's an oversimplistically take, I know, but I think that's just a great analogy of where we should get back to as a country.
Well, I'm not necessarily optimistic about us getting back there in the short term. But as you know, I have deep faith in the people of Wisconsin. And I think, Wisconsin is one of those states that had a mixed verdict, right? Like you had Donald Trump won the presidential election, Tammy Baldwin won by a point in the Senate election. Wisconsin is a place, quite honestly, where people don't wear red and blue as much as they wear green and gold. And it's important for people to remind those who are trying to wear red or blue that really we need to focus on wearing green and gold. There's real problems that need to be solved. I think the elections pointed that out. And I think both sides need to do a fair amount of soul searching and inspection, because at the end of the day, Wisconsin and the United States and the world more broadly, we're either going to be built on the notion that we hold faith in each other, or we're going to be a world which is not so great, in which we all live in fear of one another. And having been in a lot of places where fear is the modus operandi, and we're maybe seeing some of that today across the country. There are people that are afraid. And there are people that are actually relishing the fact that there are people who are afraid. In the long term, it's a pretty miserable place to be for everybody, because fear ends up being something that's contagious for both sides. So we've got to figure out how to have people that will lead and restore that notion that we should be having faith in each other. And that starts at the local level and the community level.
Let's go to the phone lines quickly. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Matt, listening in Middleton on WMDX. A great question. The subject at hand. Matt, what do you got?
Hey, guys. Love what you do, and thank you. My question's for both of you, but mostly Trigby. I'm a center-left guy, very worried, but also trying to look at potential bright spots with people and the idea of behind MAGA, some of the things they want to do. But I look a lot at the world and the shifting dynamics, and Professor Richard Wolff had a pretty good thing the other day. The fact of the matter is America is not number one, and we're not the top economy anymore. The BRIC nations are outdoing us GDP-wise. They have more people. The idea of shipping millions of people away, you're not going to be able to compete with the numbers. So how is there a chance that we will have a kind of moment where we try to share the world, focus more on Latin America, and Canada as a bloc, helping the EU? Because from what I see and hear, the EU is kind of in a dead place economically. They're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. America's on the way down. We have all this fear, like you said, which I think comes from the fact that a lot of people feel the empire's dying, and there's a lot of fear around that economically, and we're not getting good answers on either side to make us feel better in that way. And I know that's a big loaded question, but do you think there's a chance that we could come out of this and share the world, so to speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, for the question. Thanks for the compliment, Trigby.
So, I think one of the things that people maybe are less cognizant of is the notion that one of the things that truly has made America great and has been the foundation, quite frankly, of the post sort of Cold War era, and certainly the post World War II era, is the notion of soft power. And Ronald Reagan used to talk about it a lot. John Kennedy would talk about it. It's the shining city on a hill. It's we go to the moon because we can. I think really the challenge of the election is, people around the world in the post aftermath of the Cold War were standing up to tanks because they believed in the notion that they wanted to be free. They wanted to be democratic. They believed in that notion that we had set out. Those who were opposed to it tried to equate democracy with chaos. And I do think, and not to sugarcoat things, one of the issues that we're going to face as a country moving forward, beyond whatever is pursued in terms of policy, is that soft power that people truly aspired to be like the West, and that some of that has been stripped away. As far as the economics go and sharing the world, and the truth of the matter is, I think I'm not sure that Xi and Putin and those people want to share the world with us. They want a reordering of the world order because they were losing when we had that notion of soft power. So they want to realign economically, whether it's the U.S. as the reserve currency, the dollar, and what came out of Bretton Woods, the idea of NATO and joint defense. They would prefer that you have great power rivalry, so that they get to dictate what happens in Taiwan if you're China, or the Russians in Ukraine. I think the people that have rebelled against the world that we have built and globalization, and would prefer to return to some of those things under the return to a great power rivalry and sort of what that world looked like before World War II, and certainly after the Cold War. They may find out that that they didn't like what they had, but what they're going to get might be worse.
Yeah. I think that's where we've talked about it this show. I've been saying this a few times.
And I hope I'm wrong.
Right.
But
right.
I don't think I am.
We have to clean it up for radio, obviously, to broadcast radio situation. But there's a phrase going, it's been around for a while. And I feel that Tuesday people decided to mess around. And now we are in the era of find out. And I think there's a lot of unknowns that we're going to find out together, good or bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on lots of levels. Although we have some models. I mean, you can go to those places.
855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. We'll talk about some of those places, talk about the election a little bit more, give you a little hope maybe along the way, what things went right. Take your phone calls and texts as well. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Wednesday, right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Madison, real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Football season is back, and Gabriel, the promoter, is ready to help you get the party started. Celebrate in style by booking a $100 round trip.
I got this cut from Pete Buttigieg from yesterday. We'll play that. It's a little talking about focusing locally. I think that's good. We could talk a little bit about.
We should talk about Thune winning.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Okay. Thune.
414-944-1704 while spots are still available.
Okay.
When severe weather hits and the power goes out, do you have a plan? For reliable power and peace of mind,
I want to talk about,
what's
his name? The new defense guy.
It only takes about 10 seconds for a propane-powered generator to restore power to your home. So no matter what
I want to
Mother
just touch
Nature
on
has
it
in
because
store, you know you're
it's in the
prepared.
news.
Learn more at WIPG.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I don't know a lot about him. I only know what I've been seeing and hearing on both sides. So
Hegseth. Pete Hegseth. Does not sound like a good dude from what I'm seeing.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that's a harder question to answer than the one which is probably more relevant, and that is he's taking over an entity that has 200,000 people at DoD, plus the militaries themselves, a couple million, maybe 3 million. Whether he has the knowledge and experience to do that is a real question.
20
Is
seconds.
he, I don't know the answer to that.
All show on the Civic Media Radio Network, 21 now past the hour of 12 noon. Dahmer is nailing it on the music this afternoon, I guess it is. I still think I'm in the morning. Look, Trigby, here we go, right? I mean, not the first time that you and I have been up against some odds and that American people have been against odds. That's not the first time. And I think that for me, at least this last week, it's been not so much blind, like, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to it or be naive, but try to be reflective, be a sponge, try to think about what this show, what we do here, how can we be inclusive in terms of listening to people while not also giving up our principles. I mean, everything that I've said, and I believe everything you've said on the show for the last year and a half, we believe in still. But I think it's a good time to be reflective and say, okay, well, how can we talk to folks or with folks or listen to folks that could be inclusive without giving up principles? And I think that's healthy. There's a healthy venue for this program.
I agree with that 100%. And I think one of the things that might surprise some of our listeners is, I mean, I still consider myself a conservative, much more of a traditional Reagan-esque conservative. So on a lot of the foreign policy things, I tend to, quite frankly, aligning myself more with what Joe Biden was doing than what Donald Trump is saying he's going to do. Do I think there have been some things in terms of how we've approached foreign policy that I would do different based on my experiences? Yes, but like I'm not sitting there in a policy-making position.
Right.
But that being said, on a lot of social issues, probably, and certainly economic issues, I'm probably to the right of a lot of our listeners, and that's okay, right? Like,
right.
Those are regular disagreements that we can have. I'm a big believer in the Constitution and that we have a set of rules, and you follow the rules, which sometimes drives my wife and kids crazy. But I'm a kind of a big rules guy.
We got a few more phone calls here. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. People just like you. You're like Sally Field. You're the political Sally Field. People just like you.
Who?
Gene in Eau Claire, for one, listening on WCFW. Gene, thanks for listening as always. What do you got?
Well, thank you guys. First of all, thank you for all the work that you have done on behalf of democracy. I just can't thank you enough. And I'm wondering if the Lincoln Project will continue. They're just so outstanding. I wish all America could have seen all the information out there from the Lincoln Project, and I hope people support it. In addition to that, I'm wondering, Trigby, as you have worked in other countries, how do I reconcile the picture in my head of watching live the January 6th attack on my country? How do I reconcile a man who has a criminal history, who goes after women, sitting there as my President of the United States? And I believe in the rule of law also. I have always followed them myself, no matter what. And so I'm wondering, how do I reconcile in my head this type of thing? And I've never been in a resistance. And it's a new word for me, resistance. How do we help our country go to a better place? It's a big question, but I got a feeling you have some ideas.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks,
yes,
Gene.
Thank you, Gene. So as to your question, yes, Lincoln Project is continuing to do what they do, and will continue. But to your bigger question, and quite frankly, I think the more important one. So, voters spoke, right? And we have a system, and that system, voters made a decision. For those who, preferred a different option and felt like that was a bad choice, given January 6th, and, will he adhere to the constitutional rights that that are bestowed on all of us as Americans? I think those are legitimate questions to be asking. In terms of what do, we need to, we still have those rights. Tim Snyder, who's wrote a book on tyranny and several other books, professor at Yale, super smart about these things. And he and I have been on a panel once together. He makes the point that people should not give up their power on their own, right? They should not, out of fear, give up power until they're forced to. And that's important. The Constitution of the United States still governs the United States, whether people around the president think that's the case or not. And there are still institutions that are supposed to uphold those rules. And you're seeing that in some places. You had a Donald Trump appointed judge in Louisiana, of all places, say that schools could not be forced to have the 10 Commandments up because that was unconstitutional. So we have to have faith in each other. We're either a nation where we have faith in each other or we live in fear of each other. And in terms of how do you stand up to it, quite frankly, it's being a voice for when you see things that are wrong, using your voice.
No, I couldn't agree more. Let's go quickly to the phone lines again. Mark, listening to Prayer to Sack. Mark, about a minute left. What say you?
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeannie Rocks, and thank you, Trigby. And fidelity to the Constitution is extremely important. And one has to remember that the founders were men who were steeped in political history, especially that of Greece and Rome, and of the various attempts at democracy through history, and that they didn't rely on the Bible. And they remembered what happened in Rome when Rome collapsed, and they tried to get rid of the what the Romans had for their constitution. What happened to those and power, that power can slip away from their fingers very rapidly, and do they want to have the chaos they may release upon our country? And going back to mythology again, one can't help but remember the legend of Pandora, and it's either her box or her jar that she opened up and released evils upon the world and the nation, that I think what Trump is going to do. But remember that what remained was hope.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much. Got to hang on to that, Trigby. Got to need some hope here in the next couple of years. Talk more about a little hope. Hear what Secretary Pete Buttigieg is saying about the election, your phone calls as well, and a Packer preview by a Packer owner. Don't miss it. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Wednesday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
And here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known.
Conversation 92.7 WMDX. Enjoying
What's
this
a pro-woman song? Like
I've got a bunch, but
like it's our friend Chris Andrews' birthday today. You gotta send her out like a strong woman song.
Yeah. You should play. They say it's your birthday.
I'll play that one. Sure, that's fine. We can do that. More of a birthday song. They say it's your birthday.
So it's the University of Wisconsin Soil Health Conference, and this is going to be our second year.
But just going in, not out of the C block.
We start planning back in March. We bring together a partnership meeting that consists of farmers, agronomists, and conservation professionals to say, hey, what are the questions you're seeing out in the field? What are things you want to try on your farm? What are things that other states are doing that we should be doing in Wisconsin? Bring everybody together and have a pretty holistic conference around water quality and soil health topics.
That's Wisconsin Water and Soil Health Conference co-chair Dan Smith along with us. The conference will take place December 17th through the 18th at the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells. Your midday commodity markets right after this.
With over 60 years of experience in the auction business, Steffes Group is the trusted source for buying high-quality equipment. From farm and construction equipment to transportation and land, Steffes Group auctions feature a diverse selection of assets for whatever your needs may be. Bid with confidence, knowing that Steffes Group's team of professionals prioritize honesty, integrity, and outstanding service. Visit steffesgroup.com to view their upcoming auctions and start bidding on the equipment you need today.
At CHS, we know what it takes to feed and fuel the world, to integrate a global ag and energy supply chain,
to raise money,
to advocate for farmers.
Same here. I keep getting emails with a subject line of, what can we say? And I'm like, nothing. It's a week later. There's no way you have a plan for this money.
You can say, well, of course they do. Retiring debt, as Trigby knows. There's a lot of consultants that need paid.
I don't know how they ended up with the debt. That's
Me neither.
shocking. But they did.
I'm Charity
Wow.
Becker for the Midwest Farm Report with a look at your Wednesday midday commodity markets, and they are trending downwards. December corn is trading at 426 and a quarter, down 2 1/4 cents. January soybeans are trading at 1002 and 3/4, down 7 3/4. November 2025 beans are trading at 1020 and 3/4, down 11 cents. December wheat is trading at 538 and 3/4, that's down 13.5 cents. And July 2025 wheat is trading at 571 and a half, and that is down 13 1/4 cents. On the dairy side of things, this trend continues as December Class 3 milk contract is trading at $18.94 a hundredweight. That is down 7 cents. And January Class 3 milk contract is trading at $18.91 a hundredweight, and that is down 9 cents. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Charity Seebecker.
This is your local civic media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
More and more clouds today. That's the story as the winds continue to whip out of the southeast, gusting to around 25 miles per hour. It's pushing our highs unseasonable to 50 degrees. All ahead of rain rolling in this evening, continuing throughout the overnight and lingering through tomorrow morning. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 46 degrees at our studios.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Mike Siegel joins us now to make our popcorn pick of the week. Hey, Mike.
When I was a kid in the 70s, there was no Walmart. There was no
Right.
Sears was everything, from our tools to all our back-to-school clothes, everything else.
Pants.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour on this Wednesday, November 13th. November 13th, Trigby. It is the birthday of one of our very special friends and favorite people in the world, Chris Andrews. Happy birthday. There you go.
Yay.
Look, I mean, you can speak for yourself. I've known Chris since, as much as she hates to admit it, since I was 12 years old. And she was a very young staffer on Congressman Steve Gunderson's campaign out in western Wisconsin. And, became kind of friends through politics. And then she ended up hiring me to work for Congressman Scott Klug when she was Klug's chief of staff and a mentor there. And just been, and her late husband, Morris Andrews, just been wonderful, tremendous friends. And if there's a person, and I think it's important to say woman in my life, who has just been exemplifying strength and intelligence and leadership in this state and in politics, it's Chris Andrews. I want to thank her for that publicly and say happy birthday.
Yeah, I mean, Chris was my first mentor, and quite frankly, after college, I went out to work in Washington for Gunderson, and Chris is the person who actually said to me, I was a staff assistant, and they had an opening for a legislative advisor, and Chris actually is the person who said to me, I think you like campaigns better. Like, I really think that would
really,
and help,
Mm-hmm.
And really, impacted my life in so many ways, and I'm so happy to say still does to this day. We worked together on several things, and just one of the best people that you could meet, and I'm incredibly thankful that my daughters have gotten to know Chris and have her as a role model. She's just amazingly good people. And you know, she is an example, quite honestly, as she and Morris were, that there are things far bigger than our politics in life. You know,
right?
I mean,
they were
Morris
kind
was
of the
on
James
left,
Carville and Mary Matlin of Wisconsin for some time.
100%. And the thing about Chris is, whether it's people, Democrats, Republicans, everybody likes Chris.
Yes.
You know, and she cares about the things that has made this state great. The university system, public education. Yeah, amazing.
So there you
person.
go, Chris. Well, Chris Andrews is one of those things that makes one of those people that make Wisconsin great. We send our best regards out to her. And here's to you, Chris. Another trip around the sun to health and happiness. Cheers, my friend. Lots to get to, Trigby. Once again, I want to bring up a couple of things here. First of all, I guess before we go, I want to hit the Senate leadership election today. I think that's important. But before we move on from last Tuesday's elections, he's former mayor of in Indiana there, Pete Buttigieg, the current transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, I believe still, and moving forward, perhaps going to be one of the true stars of the Democratic Party. But here was his take on the election. I believe this was from an appearance at a foundation event yesterday.
One thing I believe, and I've been reflecting on it a lot in the last week, and I say this, I did not come here to add to the pile of takes that are out there. There are plenty of takes. There's some really good ones, like John Della Volpe's recent piece. There's some half-assed ones. I'm not here to offer a take. But one thing I believe, and I believed it in 2017, I wrote it in 2017, and I still think it's true, is that in moments like this, our salvation really will come from the local and the state levels. Something that, again, sometimes Democrats have lamented, right? Our federalism, like we kind of would like a little more consistency at the federal level. But a lot of the answers are going to come from mayors, from communities, from states that aren't captive to some wacky ideological project. They're just focused on getting things done. Now, embedded in your question is the fact that we haven't always, those of us left of center, haven't always covered ourselves in glory when we've been given a free hand to get things done. I think a really good project for a lot of folks in the academy to take on is to evaluate which states that had a trifecta used it better than others, more creatively, or got better results for it. In particular, there is healthy introspection going on right now on the left on the topic of how we may have gotten in our own way in terms of getting stuff done. The one that's provoked the most discussion, I think, from people like Ezra Klein and Matt Iglesias is around housing. But of course, transportation and clean energy projects, this is clearly something we got to look at.
And it kind of goes on from there. Trigby, I think he's preaching the right message there, and I think he pretty much nails it. But what say you?
You know, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Todd.
How so?
So Democrats have this tendency to come at things with the notion of, we're going to create a policy for this or a policy for that constituency. And he's kind of going down that path. What didn't we do, you know, for this constituency or that constituency? Donald Trump won because they built a narrative. They built a narrative about Harris. They built a narrative about Democrats. They built a narrative based on hope. And the reality is they made inroads in places. Here's the thing, like this might not be popular, but like student loan forgiveness. Okay. I get that to a degree, but the Republicans took that and made a narrative out of it for, you know, a Latino working guy probably who has an F-150 that he needs for his job would like debt relief for that. Like, it's a slippery slope, and Republicans successfully build narratives. The big one being, you know, sort of the wokeness, starting with, you know, men transitioning to play women's sports. I get it's not a real thing. I get that, you know, it's about pronouns in those ads, and they didn't confront those. Tammy Baldwin won. I truly believe this because she confronted that to the camera. They have to stop. They have to stop going into so deep into policy, and they need to start building narratives about what's transpiring if they're going to successfully confront this.
And you're talking about, for those that didn't see it, about the last, week and a half, 2 weeks, Tammy Baldwin did put up ads where she was looking.
It was the last 5 days that she put the ad up. She
looked right into the camera and said, Eric Hovde is lying. Stop it. And then went on to tell the truth.
And he was lying.
Yeah, he was 100% lying.
And he's lying again now by saying that he
Right.
lost the election and he doesn't even have his facts straight, and he should just go jump in the lake again, quite frankly. But I'm sure it'll be a lake out in Orange County, not in Wisconsin. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Here's the other thing about this. If I were, the Democrats need to think about, there's going to be lots of issues that are going to be arising, that are going to be coming up in the next 2 years, 4 years with Donald Trump, where states are going to have very different opinions. Republicans have wrapped this notion, we're a republic, we believe in states' rights. They're even doing that with, what they've done with overturning Roe was all about let the states decide. Democrats need to capture that. They need to build a narrative. Illinois should decide what Illinois' National Guard's going to do, and you're not sending the National Guard from Alabama to Illinois or Wisconsin, right? Like the states, they need to wrap up a narrative of states' rights. They need to take that away, not get into the policy of what Trump is doing. They need to paint big narratives if they're going to have success fighting this. That's the game they're in.
To go back quickly to Buttigieg's comments, I guess I liked what he was saying about making it local and making it state. To your point, I guess not so much the policy part, but saying that there's work to be done, and because I think there's a lot of people out there right now that are feeling overwhelmed and in despair because of the results of the election, and it's kind of like, well, there's nothing I can do. We're just kind of SOL, out of luck. And I think what I'm hearing from you and Buttigieg is similar in that there's work to be done at the local and state level. 78% of school board referendums or school referendums in Wisconsin passed. That was something that voters went and passed and helped their local schools and communities. To your point, if we have a strong state government and say that we're going to, okay, fine, if this is what you're giving us, state rights, we're going to create that narrative. I think there is focus and work to be done that is possible locally at the state level.
I agree with that 100%. But where Buttigieg struggles is then he goes into talking about, well, we didn't do this policy or that policy, and we could have done more on this or that. Stop with that and build narratives around it and encourage people at the local level. We can stand up to this at the state level in our states because we believe states have rights. We can stop this. That's what they need to be doing.
I want to move on quickly, Tracy, because I think this is important. I had a couple of texts from listeners on this. The United States Senate Republicans, which Republicans are going to control now, the new Congress, the new Senate, they had their elections. John Thune beat Rick Scott and who was it? Texas?
John Cornyn.
Thank you, John Cornyn. So Thune was the winner on that. Break it down, Trigby. You worked for McConnell for a while. You know the United States Senate better than anybody I know, particularly on the GOP side. What does this mean?
I don't know the Senate that well, Todd, to be honest.
Well, better than I do. I worked in the House.
Right. And the real enemy is always, if you're in the Senate, the House, and if you're in the House,
right, exactly. Exactly right.
100%. I think it's a pretty big deal. The sort of hardcore MAGA forces wanted Rick Scott badly. Rick Scott promised that he would just do recess appointments. John Thune says to me, he may not be perfect, but he's better than the alternatives in terms of that he will stand for the institution of the Senate and its constitutional role within that process. And John Thune will be under a lot of pressure from Trump, the MAGA wing, to supersede the Constitution. And have the institution unilaterally give up power. I don't believe you're going to see John Thune unilaterally give up power.
And that's a good thing. I think
that's a very good thing. That is how, the guardrails of democracy held on this.
Right.
And that's important. The small battles, little battles And here's why people should have hope. And people are sitting around, what can I do? It's so much bigger than me. You know what? It starts at your local level. Stand up to the crazy. When somebody is, a bunch of people are advocating that they need to ban To Kill a Mockingbird in your school, stand up, say that's wrong. Go to a school board meeting.
Run for school board.
Right. But the sensible center has to be, needs to be holding and build narratives around them. It's crazy that they would be book banning. Really?
Right. I'd be remiss, and we could come back after the break if we need more time on this, but Trump has nominated for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who is a Fox News host. He also happens to be a military veteran, but is not a general, does not have a lot of, to your point earlier, organizational experience, and now talking about this war tribunal type of thing that Trump wants to set up to basically vet generals and Joint Chiefs of Staff, circumventing the long tradition of military, going through the ranks and earning your way up, and basically a loyalty pledge instead of to the Constitution to a person, meaning Trump.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of pushback on that. I would suspect from within the bureaucracy. Now, there's just going to be it's going to be small victories for guardrails of democracy or small losses. This is all an incremental game. They're probably going to try and move fast and flood the zone with lots of things to overwhelm the guardrails. We'll see what happens. There's an element of resistance and, that is going to require picking spots. And I don't even like resistance as the word. I don't have a better word. I don't even know that it's resisting. It is resisting, but it's really standing up for what the Constitution is all about, and what we're about. So I think a better word probably is needed for a narrative. But I don't know much about this guy. I know he's from Minnesota. If he's a Viking fan, it probably makes me a little skeptical of him, but
he was also cheerleading on January 6th on Fox News. So there's that.
Yeah, he was that. That's not cool.
Not cool at all. Come on back, talk a little Packers, maybe a tad more politics. It's Trigby Olson on a Wednesday on the Civic.
He's going to have a hard confirmation hearing now that Thune won, by the way.
There you go. Fantastic. Who have the Packers got this week? I don't even know.
Chicago. I said
that's
we're
right.
going to Chicago.
Oh my God. It's been a week, Trigby. I need some R&R, quite frankly.
I can relate.
Unfortunately, it's Wednesday.
What did I say?
No, you said it's been a week. I could use some R&R, and I said, unfortunately, we're only halfway through.
It's a Wednesday that feels like a Friday.
Sure is.
In many, many ways.
Into this. Madison Computer Works. Computers that work for you.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving...
Cam and Appleton. I'm not saying this on the air. But
Nazis! I did not see this coming. I have no idea what that voice was.
That's what Cam said on the text line after your comments about standing up, or about Hegseth.
Oh,
yeah.
I did not see that coming.
Thank you.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Just remember, it all comes back to the Hunger Games, Todd.
That's right.
One of the greatest quotes of any movie is President Snow when he says, "Hope is the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. A spark is fine, as long as it's contained and doesn't become a blaze."
Let's come back with some Hunger. We got time for some Hunger music, some Hunger Games music. We'll use that.
It's one of the best lines ever.
We need to hear that. We
so
need to hear
true.
Disgusting for conservatives to suggest that because...
All right, we got like 25 seconds.
All right.
Green Bay. We go see Packers, we watch them play. When they score a touchdown, we shout hooray. Hey, we all have so much fun. We go Green Bay.
Hey, there you go. The Green Bay Packer music for Trygve Olsen, one of the owners of the Green Bay. Always a pleasure to travel with Trygve, and it's the first time we'd ever gone to a Packer game together last week up there at Lambeau Field to Detroit, and I appreciated the fact that he got us in the owner's gate, and they bring you food right to your seat.
They did not.
Yeah, I think that.
None of that happened.
Do we want to talk about your luck at the table, Trygve?
Oh, I'm good at craps.
Now, here's the situation. Trygve had a couple of his buddies from River Falls join us, delightful people. One of his people from the Lincoln Project, delightful guy. And my buddy, Chris Geezy, who was our videographer all week. He did a fantastic job of making us look good. And so went to a nice dinner on Saturday night. And then Trygve and the boys are like, we want to go over to the casino and try it. And I'm like, I'm already like getting something in my voice. I had to anchor election night, and I know myself well enough. I'm like, I just can't. I had to go home and get some rest. And so they went, and the next morning, wow, Trygve, tell the folks what happened.
I rolled like 26 times without crapping out. I was down to $30. I don't want to tell people what I started with the bankroll, but I had $30 left. I intentionally did not bet it so that I would get a chance to roll the dice. I bet on myself 26 times. Everybody at the table, and I walked away from the table with a pretty healthy profit. They were all asking me to come back. They wanted me to throw again. And what's really funny is, Scoop, who has been on the show when we were up in River Falls, he's on the school board, just a great guy. He's like the pillar of the community. They all confused me with him. So every time I threw the dice, they were going Scoop, even though I wasn't Scoop. It's pretty funny. But yes, they wanted me to come back and throw the dice again. I was like, you know what? You know how you win at craps, Todd? Quit while you're ahead.
Well, let's just say that Trygve bought the first round the next day.
I did buy the first round. I did pretty well.
Andrew in Maine says, is that not the motto of political operatives everywhere? Quote, I'm good at craps.
No, the motto of political consultants is, you got a problem, I got a plane to catch. That's actually the motto of political consultants.
I heard you say that more than once.
It's one of my favorite lines.
I want to get to the Packers.
The career arc of all political consultants.
What?
Who is Todd Allbaugh? Let's try Todd Allbaugh. Get me Todd Allbaugh. Get me the next Todd Allbaugh. Who the H is Todd Allbaugh? That might be true for radio hosts too.
It might be. It might actually be true for radio as well. You're absolutely right. I want to get to the Packers, but you said something during the break that we got to give people a little hope here, and a lot of people.
It's all about hope, baby.
Yeah, tell us this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the greatest lines, when you've done what I do, one of the greatest lines is from the Hunger Games, and President Snow is talking to Candace Everdeen, and he says, "Hope is the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. A spark is fine as long as it can be contained and doesn't become a conflagration." And people need to hold out hope. Listen, there was a little battle won today. You may hate John Thune. You may hate Senate Republicans. You may think Mitch McConnell is something equivalent to Darth Vader spawned with Dick Cheney. But the truth of the matter is, John Thune winning is a little battle. Donald Trump wanted somebody else. That is a win. John Thune has said, we'll try and get your appointments through as fast as possible. Unlike Rick Scott, who said, we'll do recess appointments and you can have whoever you want. That means those people are going to have hearings. That means this guy who's been nominated for defense secretary is going to have to get up and answer questions about these things. That is a good thing. That's a small win. We can have small wins all over the place for democracy. And we may disagree on what those small wins were, but I'm telling you, that's a small win.
I love it.
Might be a big win.
Right. Might have been a very big win, as it turns out. All right, Trygve, 2 minutes. Packers at The Bears
Chicago.
this weekend. Chicago. What do you got?
How's that new quarterback working out for you Bears fans? That guy. If you watch the show on HBO, you know, the Behind the Lines or whatever it's called, the guy has like a $23,000 purse he carries around with him. It's actually a man satchel, but kind of like in the Hangover movies. It's true.
He just loves to poke. He just loves to poke. Well, here's what I know.
He should be playing for the Vikings, actually.
You and I were at Lambeau Field. I'm going to say, before I get too cocky here, the Packers need to figure out offense because the offense a couple weeks ago looked dreadfully bad.
Not good. A lot of drop passes. Even Tucker Kraft. And I really like Tucker Kraft. He's a big old South Dakota boy. But, yeah, it wasn't good. And but you know what? Jordan Love's going to fix things. I'm pretty confident about that. I listened to this podcast with Bob McGinn, the legend Bob McGinn, with Tyler Dunn, my buddy, and they seem to think that Love will get it straightened out. That pick six, though, was brutal, dude.
I know. You said walk away from the stadium because we left right before that last score of the Packers, and we heard the fireworks go off, and we thought we were either being shot at or they scored, and it turned out they scored. But you said, hey, had it not been for the pick six and the missed field goal, it's 14-all.
Yeah, right. And remember, hope is, what happens last. Yeah. Hope dies last.
Close only counts with hand or whatever.
Horseshoes and hand grenades.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. All right, Frankie Olson, we appreciate you so much. Have fun down there in Chicago. Get the
Thanks,
Pack
Todd.
win.
Right. We'll talk next week.
Sounds great. Stay tuned.
All right.
Hour number 2, What's Worse, is straight ahead on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Where we all had so much fun, we go Green Bay. Let's go!
All right, man. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
An actor and creator of the first annual Milwaukee Independent Film Awards, Ezekiel Drews. Let's light it up.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Weeknights from 6 till 8. The Dom Salvia Show.
I had somebody recently in one of the classes I was teaching saying to me, I don't do politics, Mr. Santa. I don't spend all my time watching MSNBC and reading the opinion columns. I get that.
You might not do politics, but sooner or later, politics is going to do you. Yeah. You got to have some basic level of understanding of what government is about and how it functions and a little bit of the history of it.
You need to do enough.
The Dom Salvia Show. Weekdays from 4 till 6 on the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us. This is 92.7 WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
This is a special report from ABC News Biden-Trump meeting. I'm Michelle Franzen. At the White House, a rare sit-down between President Biden and President-elect Trump. The current president welcomed the incoming president, both shaking hands and holding talks in the Oval Office. President Biden says there will be a smooth transition.
Thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get.
The White House says it appears the meeting lasted less than 2 hours, with Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and President-elect Trump's new Chief of Staff Susie Wiles also in attendance. The First Lady Jill Biden gave President-elect Trump a handwritten letter of congratulations for the former First Lady Melania Trump, who did not attend. Senate Republicans voted today, making Senator John Thune of South Dakota their next majority leader. This is ABC News.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Madison officially has a budget. The $432 million plan for 2025 was passed last night by the Common Council. Originally, they had two proposals, one if the $22 million referendum passed, and one if it didn't, which included 5% in cuts across the board. They didn't need to make those cuts, but still, the work of the Independent Police Monitor was on the chopping block. The office was set to lose half its funding after fits and starts. The mayor's plan would have cut $197,000 of its $400,000 budget, but alders managed to avoid that, finding $127,000 to keep it mostly afloat. They'll still have to deal with some cuts, including making a full-time data analyst who just started in September switch to part-time. Meanwhile, more threats and bullying are being called in to Wisconsin's school tip line. Derek Tritz reports.
Speak Up, Speak Out, or SUSO for short, has received more than 40% more tips since the previous school year. The Wisconsin Department of Justice released their annual report, which shows how many times threats or concerning behavior were reported to them. SUSO is a statewide threat reporting tip line available for all Wisconsin schools. Since SUSO's inception in 2020, bullying has consistently remained the #1 tip. The tip line allows schools to be aware of these incidents and intervene early before things escalate and potentially become violent.
As it turns out, the Comeback Inn and the Essen House are still open. They were set to close as part of their redevelopment of East Wilson. They even had a final weekend celebration back at the end of August. But the development deal is taking a lot longer than they expected. It's still happening, it's just taking a while. The manager told the State Journal it could be months, even years. For now, they're getting 10 to 20 calls a day asking if they're still open. That means you're still able to visit for who knows how long. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Bucks take down the Raptors. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. NBA, Milwaukee with a 99-85 win over the struggling Raptors. Giannis with 23 points. Bobby Portis 17. No Damian Lillard in the concussion protocol. So point guard Ryan Rollins stepped in with 12 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Doc Rivers.
He's a terrific shooter. The thing I kept saying in the timeout, keep shooting, keep shooting.
The Bucks host the Pistons tonight. NFL, the Packers getting ready to play the Bears Sunday at Soldier Field. Green Bay has a 10-game winning streak over Chicago, the longest of its kind in the league. Men's college basketball, the Wisconsin Badgers will welcome back Bo Ryan and the 2014 and 15 teams that he led to the Final Four when they play number 9th ranked Arizona at the Kohl Center Friday night.
Excited to have who's coming back from those two teams and then to have an opportunity to recognize Coach Ryan, put his name in the rafters where it belongs. So preparation for Arizona will unfold.
That's Badgers head coach Greg Gard. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your hometown radio, Refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
More and more clouds today. That's the story as the winds continue to whip out of the southeast, gusting to around 25 miles per hour. It's pushing our highs unseasonable to 50 degrees. All ahead of rain rolling in this evening, continuing throughout the overnight and lingering through tomorrow morning. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, 47 degrees.
Have I conditioned you to the point where you just laugh every time you hear her voice?
She said whip, and I was waiting for
sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
John Legend, ladies and gentlemen. John, you and I have something in
Cam
common
and Appleton
because your
says
last name
Thomas
is Legend,
Pavlov.
and you're
Yeah.
an actual legend. And
A little bit.
My last name is Schwaba, and I'm an actual Schwaba. So there you go.
No, what is a Schwaba? You have to explain.
I'm a work in progress, but as soon as I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Weeknights from 6 till 8 on your local Civic Media radio station and
Right,
on the
20
Civic
seconds.
Media app.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with the effervescent Always entertaining, Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big broadcast. It is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. It is Hump Day.
Why didn't he jump in the same hole in the windows before? I don't know.
Well, not now. He's kicking out windows. He's gonna hurt his foot, and then that leads to camel toe, and nobody wants that. You understand? You have to be very careful. Oh, great to have Trigby Olsen with us, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
I miss him when he's not here. He took a week off, well-deserved week off, and nice to have Trigby. Always a great perspective, and I look forward to having him on the program for long to come, hopefully. And by the way, tomorrow, our 2-year anniversary.
Indeed, it is
on the show,
November 14th.
I'm looking forward to all kinds of dancers and pyrotechnics on the show tomorrow.
Was I supposed to book those?
No, it's camp. 2 years gone by like that. So we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. A little more entertaining things. I always hesitate to say that because some people are going to say that wasn't entertaining at all. But we hope to have a little more entertainment for you today and tomorrow as we move on here. And then who knows what's going to happen next. That's the attitude that I'm in right now. It's just day by day and sometimes hour by hour, and not to get too overwhelmed.
Kind of have to,
right?
Because, as we've been saying for these last 2 years and long before that, truth has truly become stranger than fiction.
Yes.
And the stuff that actually happens in the news is weirder than anything that we could come up with. So you got to be ready to.
That's why I always
pivot.
enjoy Peter Rapine being on the program. Always a pleasure. Coming up Friday, Brady Ewing's going to be here talking some Badger sports. Badgers have a big game on Saturday night. As we just heard from sports reporter Mike Clemens, at some point during the game, the football game, they're going to honor and recognize the 2014-15 Badger team that went to the Final Four and finished second. No thanks to the officiating of that championship game to Duke, but Bo Ryan and many of the members of the 2014-2015 Final Four Wisconsin basketball team will be honored at the Badger football game. The Badgers take on number 1 undefeated, the Oregon Ducks. You can hear the pregame show starting at 4:30 right here with Mike Keller across the Badger Sports Radio Network and on select stations on Civic Media. The game kicks off about 6:30 right here on the Civic Media app. You can download it on your Apple or Android device. It's free. It takes less than a minute. It's what Gail King calls a deal. All you got to do is just open up that Civic Media app, go down to one of our selected stations, such as WRCE in Richland Center, that carry that game. Kickoff at 6:30. Matt LePay and Mark Tauser, on the call. You can hear it for free. Cannot beat it with a stick, as Ken Lewis is fond of saying. So that's coming up on Saturday, and Brady will be here on Friday to preview that game with us. It's 9 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Time once again for What's Worse. Here we go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this,
again, for What's Worse. No prizes given out, no money to give to you. Only your opportunity to have your voice heard across statewide and worldwide radio and interwebs and streaming. All right, here we go. What's worse? Are you did you celebrate the holidays?
Yeah.
Christmas
I
holiday?
guess, yeah, Christmas, yeah.
Yeah. Are you a decoration type of person?
I want to be more of one. I have some decorations, but I pretty much just leave up a bunch of frogs year round at this point.
Frogs?
I have a lot of frog decorations.
2 years and I have not heard this once from you. You have frog decoration.
Yeah, I have a lot of frogs. I do have some Christmas frogs, though, so those will come out.
Really?
Just a couple, like, Santa hat or whatever.
Frog? I didn't know. I did not know this. All right. This is good to know. Zommers has a large frog collection. I want to hear more about this. All right. Right now, though, time for What's Worse. It 'tis the season, as they say. Now, some people are really, they start early. The stores, of course, get earlier every year. Well, now, before Halloween, you go in and you see, like, Halloween costumes next to artificial Christmas trees and lights already. And so some people put their decorations up early. Other people leave them up late. So here's the question. What's worse? Christmas decorations going up before Halloween or Christmas decorations being left up until Valentine's Day? What's worse? Christmas decorations going up before Halloween or Christmas decorations being left up until Valentine's Day? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. What's worse? Are you one of these people? I shouldn't say it like that. Clearly, I have feelings about this. Are you someone who puts up Christmas decorations prior to Halloween? Or are you one of those people that leaves it up until Valentine's Day? Or are you the person that puts it up before Halloween and takes it down after Valentine's? But what's worse? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842.
Tom and Jackson texts in that before Halloween is worse.
Before Halloween, listening on WMDX. Before Halloween. I'm kind of a traditionalist when it comes to I tend to say I don't like to have Christmas decorations up before Black Friday because I'm a Thanksgiving kind of guy. I enjoy things. I've started in the last few years enjoying Thanksgiving as much as I don't want to say more. I really do like Christmas, but I like Thanksgiving because it's centered on a meal and family and chilling out and a little football.
Also, the fall decorations are really good. And
yes,
if you skip out on those, you're missing a whole color palette of great, earth tones.
And I'm not saying, I get all the, I shouldn't say controversy. There are feelings about, Thanksgiving and pilgrims and Native Americans and all that.
Yeah. So the type of decorations matter. It's but fall celebration decorations.
But I think it's fine because to me, Thanksgiving is about setting aside a day to simply give thanks. And if you're a person of faith, maybe that's a faith-related thing. If you're not, that's fine. Maybe it's just thanks to the universe. Thanks for my friends. Friendsgivings are big. I think that's fantastic. Getting around to celebrate your friendships and your relationships, I think is really important. And to me, Thanksgiving focuses on that singularly more so. Christmas kind of gets the whole gift. Some people do the huge gift giving thing, which I find stressful. And there's the trees and there's the trimmings. Don't get me wrong. I love Christmas. But it seems to me that Thanksgiving in my life, at least, has gotten more simplistic in that it's just a time to be thankful and chill out. So for that reason, I don't like to see the Christmas decorations up until I celebrate Thanksgiving. And then on Black Friday, I'm ready to go.
That's where I'm at too. And also then you can make it a fun family tradition where Thursday you have Thanksgiving and then everybody who's still in town helps decorate.
Right, exactly. What's worse? Christmas decorations going up before Halloween or Christmas decorations left up until Valentine's Day? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Andrew in Maine says, what's worse is acknowledging Christmas exists before Halloween or December 1st, in my personal opinion. We took down our tree this year in March because we moved. So Andrew is big on not going before December 1st, but he's fine leaving it up perhaps until Easter.
It seems like there were some, extenuating circumstances.
Yes. Matt Middleton says, before Halloween is worse. It gives me gifting anxiety. Well, there, I can see that, right? For people who really are into that. Tony, watching on YouTube, says, definitely worse leaving them up forever. If you leave them up, you're being lazy. If you put them up early, you're just excited for your favorite holiday. All right, well, I can see that. I can see that. I have been known because of my wacky schedule sometimes to go pretty close to Valentine's Day on the back end.
I can't say my family's been different in that. There's been years where we put up the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve, and then it stayed up for like 2 months.
But if you're putting it up on Christmas Eve, that's really, the length of time is about the same.
Right.
As if
and
you
also,
go,
it ended up being, a fun family thing, putting it up on Christmas Eve. It was cutting it a little close, but
right. Here's something off of Southern Living. Why it's never too early to put up your Christmas tree.
Never?
Never. It says, while we're unabashed Christmas decorating fanatics, we have a countdown for the perfect time to set up your Christmas tree. We realize that holiday decorators generally fall into two decorating time frames: the pre-game Christmas decorators and the after-party decorators. Since then, there were so many ways to deck the halls that our editors suggested for when to put up your Christmas tree. The earliest time to set up the trees, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, is the earliest you should set up a Christmas tree or decorate for Christmas, according to Southern Living, who I'm sure we can all agree should be the actual voice of decorating.
Yeah, what a fine publication.
Y'all don't put up your Christmas tree until Black Friday. I don't want that. I'll get my gun out and shoot you if you do. That's a ridiculously terrible take on fine people in the South. I'm a little punchy today, if you can't tell. All right, what else we got here? Matt Middleton saying before Halloween, the gift of giving anxiety. Jim, listening on WGBW in Green Bay, Jim out of Appleton says, what's this Valentine's Day? They stay up until Easter. It's much worse before Halloween. They go up around Thanksgiving. All right, so they're like me around Thanksgiving, and then he's in favor of leaving it up until, I guess, for me a little bit, I like to, here's what annoys me. You want to know what grinds my gears, to put it into Tuesday context? The people who are like, it's the 26th, take everything down.
Oh, yeah, that's annoying. Come on, live in it a little, enjoy it.
Like I don't like that at all, because, and here's what, and people who know me, I haven't had a chance recently because, turns out I'm working now, or at least working more during the middle of the day. Grew up watching a lot of As the World Turns, and then also Young and the Restless. And the Young and the Restless, they always, about this time of year now, they'll start talking about the holidays. Well, I don't know what we're going to do for the holidays. The holidays start on deer hunting opening weekend and go until January 2nd. That's the holidays. Back after this on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Conversation 92.7 WMDX.
This is Gordy with John and Gordy in the morning on 92.7 WMDX. When you text into our show or any WMDX program, know that our text line is sponsored by Rocket Industrial. Package with less. Visit rocketindustrial.com and we'll be watching out for your text.
Matt Nair on air.
Hey, Merlot, it's time for a little weather and wine.
Southern accent.
Like me, I'm a Jane, you are.
I like the weather.
I'm going to shoot you. Where did that come from?
COCORHS.
I don't know, but it was funny.
Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. You can actually help us meteorologists. All you do is put a rain gauge outside, and this is how I tell you guys how much rain Wisconsin got.
That sounds so Coco Raz.
It's a Coco Raz kind of moment.
Matt Nair on air. Weekdays at 11 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell. And
Andrew,
you can't
that's
afford
absolutely
bail,
right. That's
and someone
ridiculous.
We'll have to,
offers you
yeah,
a
we'll have
way
to share
out.
that. That's crazy.
We're not.
And you can go home and kiss your
I also
kids
have other
goodnight.
thoughts on
What
decorations
do you do?
based on
What
family
thousands
experience.
have?
but-
You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Mike Siegel joins us now to make our popcorn pick of the week. Hey, Mike.
When I was a kid in the 70s, there was no Walmart. There was no,
Right.
Sears was everything, from our tools to all our back-to-school clothes, everything else.
Pants, stereos, kitchen appliances. Do you have pantyhose? Yeah, they're right next to power tools on the second floor.
That's true,
You
actually.
really could get everything there.
Everything.
Nightlight.
The whole bit they had about Sears was funny. I had trouble trimming it down, which again is always the issue with
Yeah.
Nightlight is
That's great.
trimming down the joke where it still makes sense and you get the best bit. All right, 15 seconds.
The falling leaves
drift by the window, the autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio. Could have been one of those songs with our great former colleague at WRCO, Reminiscing with Ray. Ray Schrader played a lot of this big band, and was that let me guess. Let me see. It's not Sinatra, right? It's not Sinatra.
Correct.
Was it Nat King Cole?
That's it.
There you go, Nat King Cole.
Autumn Leaves. Yeah.
Yes.
Again, if you skip right to the holidays before Halloween, you miss great autumn songs like that.
The great Nat King Cole, I should say. Wonderful musician, wonderful writer, singer, songwriter, Nat King Cole. Yeah, Autumn Leaves. So you got to have your autumn holidays. Talking about what's worse, Christmas decorations going up before Halloween or Christmas decorations left up until Valentine's Day. Andrew in Maine, watching on YouTube, I believe, or somewhere on WAUK. Andrew watches a lot of places. We appreciate that. He says, I have heard of, via social media, people who take down their tree and decorations on December 25th. That just seems crazy unless you put up a live tree before Halloween. Yeah, what's up with that? What's up with that? What's up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me unless you have a real, like I said, if you have a live tree and it's starting to shed everywhere, sure. Otherwise, enjoy the day, relax. Don't worry about packing stuff up and putting it away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, taking down the tree on Christmas, that just kind of like defeats, unless you're like kind of catch a plane or something. I don't know.
I also have another secret that's not really a secret for everybody out there. If decorating is a chore, you don't have to do it, or you can make it easier.
Don't stress yourself.
In my family, we used to have a lot of decorations because my mom likes to collect stuff like that, and it's a lot of beautiful pieces.
Yeah, it's a lot of work sometimes.
But it's a lot of work, and we wouldn't, our schedule for the rest of the family would often conflict with her, so she didn't have help, or when we could help, she wasn't available, and we didn't know where stuff was. It was a whole thing. It caused a lot of fights in the family, and eventually we're like, you know what? Not like huge fights.
Was this like arguments. Professional wrestling at the Zommers household?
Just arguments. Like, why aren't you guys helping me with this?
Being thrown around.
Why isn't this getting done? Oh, because I was decorating. So-and-so was doing this or whatever. But, especially we have several chronically ill people in the family. Just simplify it as much as you can. We ended up getting a tree that was smaller and has lights built in. No more having to string around lights and get that all figured out. Fewer ornaments because the tree is smaller. Just simplify it. If it's too much for you and you still want to do it and have some fun and make it a family thing, do that. But you don't have to go crazy.
No, very true. I still enjoy, we get a live tree for Mom every year. And what I enjoy about putting up the live tree at Mom's house is putting it up barehanded, and then she puts out a bowl of mini marshmallows and Rice Krispies, and then I just dip my hand in the Rice Krispies and the marshmallows and lick it off with a pine sap. And it's a great holiday treat.
That sounds tasty.
It's fantastic. What's worse, Christmas decorations going up before Halloween or Christmas decorations left up until Valentine's Day? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Here now from today. This is a better source than Southern Living. Today, the Today Show, Al Roker, everybody knows Al, says, go ahead, put up the Christmas lights now. Science says it'll make you feel happier. It says if you're itching to break out the Christmas lights before you've even carved the Thanksgiving turkey, go ahead. Psychologists say it will make you happier. The British website, Unilad, Unilad, got us all thinking about trimming the tree a few weeks early. In 2017, Unilad reported that people who decorate earlier are simply tapping into the excitement of the holidays before the rest of us, which makes them happier.
That goes with what Tony said earlier, saying if you put it up early, you're just getting into your favorite part of the year sooner.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And we can all use a little bit of happiness this year. Psychologist Deborah Sarani confirmed today that that is true. Decorating can definitely lift your mood. She says, quote, it does create that neurological shift that can produce happiness, she said. I think anything that takes us out of our normal habitation, the normal day and ins and outs, signals our senses, and then our senses measure if it's pleasing or not. Christmas decorating will spike dopamine, a feel-good hormone, she says. But that, pardon me, but what is it exactly about Christmas decorations that triggers those happy hormones? For starters, the bright lights and colors. This is big for me. It's called chromotherapy or color therapy, which is thought to increase energy levels and boost happiness, might be at play. Or maybe it's just the ambiance in general. Who can resist smiling at the sight of a Christmas tree, of it being lit for the first time? There's even a new scientific field devoted to understanding how our designated environments affect our behavior called neuroarchitecture. As Carson once said, I did not know that.
Makes sense.
For me, it's a lot about the lights, because I've talked about, I'm very light sensitive in terms of my mood. And now that the sun's setting at 4:30, 4:45, once it gets dark, I'm kind of like, ugh, I'm done.
It affects me a lot too.
I'm done.
Especially because my vision is so terrible, including my dark vision is worse than other people's. And some of my friends really like their houses to be nice and dark and no overhead lighting. And if you can't see, what's the point?
What's the point?
But they can probably see fine. So that's
I mean, I like the Christmas because I like the light, I like the candles. I like the more light for me, I think it makes me feel happier. So I agree with this article today. And you know what? After the week we've all had, go ahead, put them up. If it makes you feel better, if it makes you happier, God love you. Enjoy your decorations.
Michaela in West Bend says decorations going up before Halloween is definitely worse. In January, you need that joy, to the point of those lights. Also, she collects frogs, so
very
glad
good.
I'm not the only one.
Very good. I'm not sure who this is. Says Don leaves his up all year. In New Orleans, we saw it decorated for Mardi Gras. On Easter, we saw it with rabbits and eggs. And the fourth, flags. Decorate for every occasion. I do know people have done this.
That's a way to do it.
I'll say her name. She is was a lovely person, has departed us way too soon. But a woman named Carletta Heidi, for those listening back at WRCE in Richland Center, she used to have a whole room of Christmas trees that she left up all year. And as the person said, would decorate them according to the seasons. Well, whether you're enjoying autumn leaves or what have you, enjoy your afternoon. We'll be back with a little bit more after this. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX. You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The last time we'd heard from Republican Senate candidate Eric Hovde was at 3 a.m. at his election night party when he sent everybody home. Until now. Here's Stuart J. Waddles.
The former Senate candidate put out a message on social media yesterday with the word concession missing.
Many people have been wondering why I have remained quiet since election night. I believe it's better not to comment until I have the facts.
Why are we
Wisconsin Election Commission is in the final process of finalizing the canvass from last Tuesday's election. Many people have reached out and urged me to contest the election. While I'm deeply concerned, asking for a recount is a serious decision that requires careful consideration. Further, there are meaningful limits on a recount because they don't look at the integrity of a ballot.
Hovde's down about 29,000 votes to incumbent Tammy Baldwin. His social media message included reasons why he thinks something was off with the election and mentioned the Milwaukee vote. The city vote comes in late due to state law that remained unchanged from 2020. The Republican offered no proof of misconduct. Despite Hovde's claims, most news organizations have called the race for Baldwin. In the statement, Hovde said once the final information is available, he'll announce his decision on how he'll proceed.
And it's one of the main issues facing our community. Dane County.
But we're not going to
needs
bring up
more
the
affordable
WEC's
housing.
response?
A study from the county says we need more than 1,700 new affordable rental units every year for the next 15 years to keep up with demand. And that effort is growing beyond just Madison, including with the development of townhomes right near downtown Oregon. It's the first all-townhome project to get funding from the county's affordable housing program. Lower density options like townhomes are often out of a lot of people's budgets. It'll have 24 units. 20 of them will be reserved for lower income tenants and people who have been homeless. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The announcement seems like only a matter of time, but there will be a sequel to the prequel known as Wonka. The 2023 film starring Timothée Chalamet was one of the top 10 highest-grossing films of 2023, so the announcement was more a question of when, not if. Director Paul King says the script is in the early stages and will take place before Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and he might incorporate some exotic locations where they have to search for secret ingredients. The film Tremors from 1990 is getting a reboot. The team behind the horror flick, which was at times pretty funny, has reacquired the rights to their script and are contemplating how to approach another crack at the franchise, according to JoeBlow.com. Yes, that's a real site. The original film took place in a small Nevada town that saw residents terrified of graboids. Kevin Bacon, who was in the original, has shown interest in the sequel. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
More and more clouds today. That's the story as the winds continue to whip out of the southeast, gusting to around 25 miles per hour. It's pushing our highs unseasonable to 50 degrees. All ahead of rain rolling in this evening, continuing throughout the overnight and lingering through tomorrow morning. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlau. It's 46 degrees at our studios.
Everyone on the road is trying to make it to their destination safely. You can help by staying aware of the large trucks and buses around you. They take longer to stop, have large blind spots, and make wide turns that require caution from other drivers. It takes all of us working together to share the road safely. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
This is Chad Spate. Are you thinking about improving your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're proud to offer remodeling done well with love. And our commitments to you and your home convey that love and spell our name. The Chad's experience is structured to provide excellent communication, honesty, accuracy, detailed proposals, and satisfied customers. We're also committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable.
Fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is 34 now past the hour of 1 o'clock on Wednesday, November 13th. Summer's on the board. Glad to have you along with us here. A little breaking news for you. The Republicans will have unfettered power coming into Washington as the House Republicans have just gained their 218th seat to retain control of the House of Representatives. The GOP's control of both chambers of Congress means that President-elect Trump will have a path to enact an agenda that could profoundly change America, including sweeping tax cuts, hardline immigration enforcement, and a transformation of domestic and foreign policy, according to CNN. Republicans' victory in the House also represents a triumph for Speaker Mike Johnson, who struggled to control his resistive conference over the last 2 years. The House GOP often plunged into chaos and infighting, some of which was exacerbated by Trump's interventions and the behavior of some of his most outspoken supporters. The narrow majority meant that any one member could decide to stage a revolt or to break with leadership, for personal political gain. The question now will be how large next year's House majority becomes and whether the GOP can widen the margin of a handful of seats that has made managing the conference so complex for Johnson. In fact, the fact that Trump will be in the White House and the GOP in full control could make unity easier next year. However, Trump is already poaching from the incoming majority for his cabinet picks. And even with those members hailing from safe Republican seats, their likely vacancies could last long enough to cause headaches for Johnson. It's a good perspective, actually. So now we know that for certainty, Republicans will control the House of Representatives by at least a one-seat majority, and it could be a few more. Right now, the current standing is 218 for Republicans, 208 for Democrats. 218 is the magic number which Republicans have now reached for control. In the Senate, 52 Republicans to 47 Democrats. And, of course, Trump will control the executive branch. But Trump is already grabbing a couple of people, politically speaking, I guess you have to make that clear these days, from the U.S. House. So what you could see, depending upon how many more people he taps for appointments, this could cause real headaches for Mike Johnson in the House of Representatives, because you could get theoretically down to a point where you have a 1-2 seat majority, even, an even number with the speaker making, the tie vote potentially decision. But again, that empowers those on the far right within the Republican caucus to demand, like Matt Gaetz and others, who would say, "Look, this is what I want. If I don't get it, I'm calling for a leadership vote." So oddly enough, the second best choice for some of us, at least, who care about democracy and the Constitution, ideally, it would have been nice to have Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, in the chair. But having a really, really, really close 1 or 2 seat margin for Republicans is the second best thing you could get, because it may, keyword may, keep them from doing the most extreme things. We don't know. And as we said earlier on the program, with Trygve Olsen having Thune from South Dakota, John Thune as the new Senate Majority Leader in the House of Representatives, is certainly better than having Rick Scott from Florida there. Scott was all about the recess appointments. And what the dangerous part was with these recess appointments is what Trygve basically touched on earlier, is that you don't have the hearing process. You don't go through the normal processes where the opposition party, in this case the Democrats in the United States Senate, get to ask the nominees pointed questions on the record. So at the very least, it would appear that having John Thune as the Republican Majority Leader in the United States Senate will ensure that these normalities or normal processes in the U.S. Senate will continue. At least nominees will have to answer questions from the opposition party. So as Trygve said, that's one glimmer of hope for the day, having John Thune as the Republican Majority Leader in the U.S. Senate. And aside from having Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker, the next best thing would be a close majority in the House. I touched on this a little bit last hour. I want to make sure we get this in. By the way, here's off the text line. Wes in Middleton says, on listening on WMDX, there you go. America is gonna get a taste of pure MAGA. Let's see how we like it. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been saying. On last Tuesday, a week from yesterday, on the election day, November 5th, some people decided to mess around, and now we get into the find out phase. Andrew in Maine says it allows this on the center right to work with Dems and Jeffries to
I think those on the center right is what it was supposed to be.
Oh, sorry. It allows those, you're right, thank you, on the center right to at least work with Dems and Jeffries to stall extreme bills like the last 2 years. Agreed. Agreed with that, Andrew. And we've seen at least moments over the last couple of years where Jeffries and Johnson meet in private to try to work some things out. Continuing resolution bill is one of them. So let's hold on to that for a little bit, shall we? Want to just, again, go back to this nomination by Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, the nominee by Donald Trump to be the new Secretary of Defense. As our friend Matt Flynn might say, this guy is bad news, in my opinion. And Summers, like I sent you the clip of this is Hegseth on Fox News on January 6th, 2021. Here's what Hegseth had to say leading up to Trump's speech on January 6th.
What will he say from the podium today? We'll find out on the Fox News channel. His two sons will also be speaking. Dan Cavino speaking, Katrina Pearson, Mo Brooks, who's been a part of the objection as well on Capitol Hill, as well as organizers for Women for America First. And guys, right now the crowd is starting to walk in. They just opened the doors. You're actually going to look at the first few folks that will be coming in. They've been waiting for hours, morning for hours. And, you know, the chants that are coming time and time again are stop the steal, stop the steal. And we saw it coming out of Georgia, that 70% of Republicans who believe that the election in November was not legitimate, that it was stolen, that may have had an effect on Georgia, but no doubt it has an effect on the hearts of this city right now, of Americans. I have friends who've texted me who are not very political saying, I'm coming to Washington, D.C. today because I can't handle what's happening in my country. I think it's not an understatement to say we're in a constitutional tinderbox right now with people on both sides believing there's legitimacy and illegitimacy based on things they feel in their heart and love of their country. Donald Trump will articulate a lot of that today from the stage. He'll have thousands of supporters here and dozens of senators and congressmen on the House of Representatives objecting with that long debate that will go on and on. Will the rally go on longer and longer? We'll see. There were arrests last night. Will there be contention tonight? That's a possibility as well.
Pete Hegseth on Fox News ginning people up on January 6th. And he is the nominee to be the Secretary of Defense. Mess around and find out. Interesting. I had sent you another clip, Zombers. Tell me when you got that one. I just sent it over to you. If you want to know the kind of guy this Pete Hegseth is, here he is talking on Fox News about the dude doesn't wash his hands.
I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years. Really, I don't really wash my hands ever.
Help me.
No, I inoculate myself. It's just not, germs are not a real thing. I can't see them, therefore they're not real.
So you're becoming immune to all of the
exactly,
bacteria.
I can't get sick.
Now for those of us who are guys, we all know a guy like this.
Yeah.
Who you stand next to him in the urinal and you go to the sink to wash your hands and he just goes out. I mean, this is the kind of dude he is.
In college, I got the whiteboard in the bathroom, which was supposed to be for maintenance requests. I got it taken away because there were people, the bathroom was in the middle of the floor and the rooms were around it. And you could hear people would go in there, do their business, and then leave without washing their hands. So I started writing, you may be okay with touching your junk and then going and eating, but I'm not okay with touching your junk and then eating. Wash your freaking hands.
Wait. You're touching their junk? Or no?
Well, because they're touching everything else without washing their hands.
Yeah,
and then they would be like, no, it takes too long. And I wrote, flushing the toilet while washing out and washing your hands do not take too long. Like, especially, they also wouldn't flush the toilet. I forgot about that part. And it's like, are you kidding me? They started getting real angry, and I got angrier, and then the whiteboard got taken away. All because these people don't believe in germs they can't see, and they think it takes too long to flush the toilet.
That's what's grinding Zommer's gears today.
I hate people like this.
He put a nickel in him. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Wisco Paul. Thanks for holding on, Wisco. What say you?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Todd. That's a little concerning there. That's why I just called. That's going to be the new defense chief. I don't know. I knew it might get bad, but that's pretty amazing. And you know, Todd, a long time ago, you just, and I don't know how it could be any worse. You spent $1 billion. I mean, I think Kamala was okay, but it was a little late in the game to change. Of course, that's hindsight. But so I just want to call and I'm a little freaked out that this guy's going to run defense. So have a nice day.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Wisco. Yeah, I'm on the serious side. And again, time will tell. But it appears reports are now that Trump is moving ahead with this guy, Pete Hegseth, on what Project 2025 told us, which is they plan to ask people on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, military officials, to take a loyalty pledge, not to the Constitution, not to the country, but to Trump. And they're looking at completely overhauling the Joint Chiefs of Staff. 855-752-4842. While I get quickly to the phone lines again, Joe, listening in Madison via WMDX. Joe, always a pleasure. What say you?
Boy, I think you should be running these clips again and again. This is fascinating. On January 6th, a coup is being assembled against our government, and he describes it as, quote, the objection, end quote. The objection. It was a coup. It was overturning the will of the people. My vote, throw it away. Your vote, throw it away. After 60 court cases, I mean, they had their time to show that their cause was just and righteous. It didn't make the cut. And now he describes it as the objection rather than the coup. And he said they're gathered here, as I wrote it down, it was based on what they feel in their heart is true and their love for their country. What they feel in their heart, how about the facts? I mean, I feel all sorts of things too, but I check it out to make sure I am at least somewhat close to reality. But we have to be based on facts, not the feeling in our heart. Now, come on, that's for St. Valentine's Day. That's not for times in government. And I also find it amazing and fascinating and awful that this idea of a loyalty pledge for, I believe it's generals and flag officers. Matt Flynn has talked about this before. People who get to that level have given their life to the military. Think of the amount of time that folks who get to that level in the military have spent away from their family. And that's the decision that they have made because they do love their country and have a sense that this is what they need to give. And now a board that describes itself as, quote, the warrior board is going to decide whether these generals and flag officers are warrior enough if they're loyal to Trump, not the Constitution. We ought to be real worried about this because someone at that level who has been replaced and then the person who comes in behind them who is what he has is on his plus side is that he is loyal to Trump. That's insane. That is just America is no longer America if that's the case, and it's really, really worrisome.
Couldn't agree more, Joe. Thank you very much. Up against the clock here. This guy wrote a book called The War on Warriors. Tell you a little bit what's in it when we come back. Don't go anywhere. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Wednesday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's one of my biggest pet peeves when people just refuse to flush the toilet and wash their hands, if you couldn't tell.
Well, and then, for those watching on the stream, one of our toilets here at the station, the what do you call it? The flush volume, whatever, has been lowered, and so there's floaters all the time.
I just don't use that one.
Neither do I, unless it's like an emergency. I didn't wash hands.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole movement of these manly men who don't wipe their butts because it's gay to put anything between your cheeks. Yeah.
What?
I've seen.
No
I don't know how
way.
I've seen stuff like that, or people getting divorced because like they find out their husbands won't clean up after themselves. It's not a lot of people, but there are people like that. It's hard to believe.
Oh my gosh, that is gross. That is we're not talking about that.
Yeah, no, I know, but
I'm sorry for those on the stream, but we're not going there in the air. I can't even imagine. Talk about the streak marks. I mean, Judas Priest.
Wash your hands, everybody come along and wash your hands, wash your
Back
hands.
to the Todd Allbaugh Show, Pacific Media Radio Network, 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock on the top of the hour, ABC or CBS News, depending upon which station you listen to, a sports and weather update, and then the Maggie Dawn Show every afternoon from 2 until 4, followed by Dominic Selvia from 4 until 6, and then at 6 o'clock it's Nightlight with Pete Swaba. Stay tuned for all those shows. Talking about the nominee by Donald Trump to be the defense secretary, Pete Hegseth. Yes, a veteran, not a general, but a veteran. Most recently, for the last 2 or 3 years, a Fox News host. And now he is the secretary for, or nominee for Secretary of Defense. And to Dahmer's point there, we talked about this clip we played earlier. It's serious, but it's just weird. Again, the fact that he brags on Fox News that when he uses the restroom, he claims he hasn't washed his hands in 10 years.
And then everybody around him, including you can hear people groaning offset.
Right.
People in the production team were grossed out. And his co-hosts are like, get me out of here.
This is the personal pet peeve of Summers. Because if you're a guy, we all know guys like this. We've been around it in wherever setting, and you're in a restroom, and a dude's next to you at the urinal, and he just zips up and out the door.
I will publicly shame them.
But more concerning for this part is the fact that Hegseth was there in his role in Fox News on January 6th, prior to Trump's speech, in which a bipartisan commission of Congress found that Trump, my word, liable for ginning up the January 6th insurrection. And Hegseth was there and ginning that up and talking about it and talking about election conspiracy theories that have been proven not true. He wrote a book, Hegseth did, called The War on Warriors. The War on Warriors. A subtitle is Behind the Betrayal of the Men Who Keep Us Free. Steve Bannon, not Bannon, but Bannon, B-E-Y-N-O-N, Steve Bannon. He's a national security reporter for military.com, an Afghan vet, previously at Politico and Stars and Stripes, the official publication for our nation's military. He wrote this today. Says, here's a few things about Hegseth, Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense. First, he's way against women serving in combat, saying in a recent podcast, quote, I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles, unquote. Rolling back women's roles in service is a top concern among most Army officials I've talked to recently, he says. A proxy for this attack in recent years has been the service's fitness test and the fight over having a gendered standard. And then it goes on to talk about this. I don't quite understand it. A certain tattoo that he has on his arm, this anti-Muslim and anti-Jew. It's been known to have people that were at Charlottesville had that. I don't quite understand that part of it, but I'm sure it's significant. And saying Steve Bannon says of this new defense secretary nominee, quote, he's a big cultural warrior. Writing in his book that I talked about here, this book, you look it up yourself, by Pete Hegseth, the book, The War on Warriors, says in this book, quote, do we want woke, diverse, quote unquote, recruits that the Biden administration is curating to be the ones with the guns, unquote? Meanwhile, the Army has had to lean on minorities to fill its ranks. Black recruits, for example, make up about 24% of recent new recruits compared to making up 14% of the general population. Hispanics make up 24% of recruits. Women's recruitment has been steady for decades. You may have heard of the quote-unquote recruiting crisis, but that's entirely attributed to men, specifically white men. And it's a decade trend that has more to do with the identity politics. Bennion writes, it's totally anecdotal, but I've talked to 3 mid to senior level officials in the military who all say a notable chunk of their team are in the LGBTQ community. In short, the math doesn't math. If you want a giant army and you're only interested in recruiting straight white troops. Finally, he says, for recruitment, the Army has had to rely on future soldier prep courses, which takes applicants who are short on body fat or academic standards and gets them up to snuff. We have had on this program, I want to be very, very careful here. I am not here to put words into Brigadier General May's mouth at all. This is Todd's opinion based on conversations and interviews that we've had with General May, who leads our National Guard in Wisconsin. He has come on this program. He has brought female officers and pilots from the National Guard in this program and talked about the importance of women recruits and women who are serving in our Wisconsin National Guard and Air National Guard. We have talked with him about the importance and the significance of diversity in the recruitment process. So again, that comes from Brigadier General David May. That's what he has told us as a leading military officer. Again, making clear what I'm about to say is my opinion. I am not saying this is his opinion. This is my opinion. Based on what I've heard from a decorated and important leader in Wisconsin, what Hegseth is saying does not add up to what we or what the folks in the Wisconsin Air National Guard and National Guard are doing. These are the sorts of things we have to suss out, to point out. And the good news is with John Thune in the Senate leadership role now, at least there will be hearings to bring this sort of thing out. Hang on to that bit of hope for now. Stay tuned. Maggie Dawn is next. We'll see you tomorrow on a Thursday edition. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum.
And your day will come. Keep banging on your drum, and they will hear you.
Well, bye.
Thank you, everybody.
everybody.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.